How does Tom define leadership?
I think there's definitions for what great leadership is, but I would much rather show you great leadership. I'd rather show you somebody that's a great leader.
Just to kick it off, why politics?
Got a meeting with Congressman Flake. He took me to go meet other members of Congress and to teach me how the process worked. And I just thought, I can do this, you can do this. I'm going to go run for office. I have a lot of people who were unhappy with me when I was in government because I did what I thought was right. And I don't have any regrets about that.
Welcome to this week's episode of the Everyday Leader Podcast. This week, we're excited to have Tom Forese as our guest. Tom has spent a lifetime in Arizona politics, working as an entrepreneur, serving youth as a teacher and leader. He's the ultimate connector. He hosted groups of entrepreneurs to connect and bring opportunities for everybody. Guy is a true leader. Stay tuned for this conversation.
Welcome to the Everyday Leader Podcast. Leadership is a choice. Join me, Matt, and my co-hosts Drew and Tate each episode as we break down how to lead powerfully in your family, team, and organization.
Hey guys, welcome to the Everyday Leader Podcast. Today we've got a special guest, Tom Forese. Somebody I've gotten to know a little bit over the last year or so. He's doing some amazing things. He spent a lifetime in politics, 10 plus years. He is a member of a band, great musician, and he's just hosts some leadership groups and some different meetups that are just absolutely incredible. And so I want to talk to Tom, pick his brain a little bit on what makes Tom, good at the things he is, and just hear his story. So thanks, Tom.
Good to be with you guys today.
Yeah. So I just to kick it off, why politics?
It started with frustration. So my brother and I were in Washington, D.C. about 2008, 2009. And some legislation, we were in the education software space, and some legislation was really hurting our business. And I told my brother, we were there for a conference. I told him, I said, I'm going to go to the Capitol. And I was just so angry. And I made some phone calls. I got a meeting with Congressman Flake, and he took the meeting to his credit, and I came in guns blazing. I mean, I was so upset. I was so frustrated with him, and he did something. He did this brilliant political move on me. He said, "How much time do you have?" I said, "I don't know. All the time in the world I need to get you to see the error of your ways." And he said, "Why don't you come to the floor with me?" And so he took me to go meet other members of Congress and to teach me how the process worked. And that experience really changed my life, because when I said goodbye to him, I walked down the Capitol steps and I sat down on the steps, and I was struck by lightning. And I just thought, anybody can do this. I can do this. You can do this. I'm going to go run for office, and I'm going to make a difference and advocate for the guys that are trying to start businesses and get businesses up off the ground. And that was the genesis of it all.
Love that. And I think that's a great way to start this conversation, because I view leadership at times as somebody's got to be willing to stand up and, kind of be counted. And I mean, it's exactly what this sounds like is, hey, I can make a difference and I'm going to.
If there's one thing that could come out of this podcast that would just put a smile on my face, if you would consider running, if those that hear the podcast would consider running, this country is not designed to have royalty. It is not designed to have a leadership class. It is designed to have citizens go take a turn, put in a couple years on a school board, utility board, run for city, town council, the legislature. And if you lose, tip of the cap to you. You did it. You were willing to do it. In fact, I would actually say that from a moral point of view, if you run for office and you lose, it's the best of both worlds because you demonstrated your willingness and you didn't have to actually do it. So I think
I love that.
that's the spirit of leadership should be service. And you should I
Yeah.
mean, well, I lost my last election, but I'm grateful that I did because that was enough time. And I often have people talk to me about politics and government, and whether I like it or not, I know an awful lot about it. But there's a lot of other things that I do. I did a lot before, and I do a lot after. But that was very public, and I'll say I have a lot of people who were unhappy with me when I was in government because I did what I thought was right. And I don't have any regrets about that. I never did a single thing that I couldn't go into my bedroom at night and look myself in the mirror before bed and not be comfortable with what I did in government. And and doing that meant I stacked up a lot of opponents. I was one, if I thought something was wrong, you knew it. And that's and I think that's the way it should be too. I think yes men are a danger to business and to government. And it's good to have opinions, and it's good to be able to have facts behind your opinions. And so that was the approach that I took while I was in office.
Yeah, it just makes me have this thought that I've had a lot over the years, and it's around jury duty. And all the successful people I know try to get out of jury duty. And it finally dawned on me one day, and it's like, man, if everyone that thinks well skips jury duty, who's going to be my jury? And it's just like, man, it kind of changed my mind. It's like, well, if I get called and I got to go do it, I got to go do it. At least, hopefully I'm a balancing force.
It'll make you think twice before you say no to the deal they offer you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Well, Tom, I think you've already hinted at this. So we love asking because you get a million different answers to this. And how would you define leadership? How does Tom define leadership?
I think the same way that I define history. I think it's biographical. I think there's definitions for what great leadership is, but I would much rather show you great leadership. I'd rather show you somebody that's a great leader. I worked with people on both sides of the aisle, which is an unpopular position today. The polarization of politics in the last 10 years, it's very unpopular for a Republican to be friends with somebody that's a Democrat, or a Democrat to be friends with somebody who's Republican. But I'm proud of the fact that I had great friends that were in my party with totally different beliefs and political views, and friends with people in the other party, many of them who did have my same belief and views. There's one very prominent Democrat who was anti-firearm and whatnot, and he had some death threats. And he was my friend. I'm worried about him. And I said, "How are you holding up?" And he showed me he was carrying. And I laughed so hard. And I don't think he thought that I would laugh as hard as I did, because he's a little frightened of his situation because he's got somebody giving him death threats. But I just laughed so hard. I thought it was so great. I'm like, push comes to shove, you're just as Second Amendment as I am.
Yeah.
And he said, yeah, there's probably some truth to that, but I won't out to you who that was too, because he's now in DC and I'm respectful of what he's trying to do, but it doesn't change the facts of the facts.
Yeah.
Great leadership. I think about people I got to serve with, like John Kyle. John Kyle retired just about the time that I stepped out of government, and I greatly admire him. He was a congressman for a long time. He was a senator for a long time. He was a whip in the U.S. Senate. I was in his office in D.C. During President Obama's administration, and President Obama was working on an arms treaty with Russia, and it was sitting on Kyle's desk. And Obama had asked Kyle, not on his party, not part of his staff, to review it and to give him his thoughts. And I thought that's interesting to me, to have him be in a position where his counsel is sought.
Mm-hmm.
One time, John and I were having lunch together, and there was somebody that was just a real pain in our butt. You don't need to know the details, but there was somebody that was just a real pain in our butt. And this person had been unemployed for a long time. And I said, Senator, can't we just find this guy a job somewhere? And then he'll just be quiet. And he looked at me with the sweetest look. It wasn't critical. It wasn't like condescending. He said, Tom, we're better than that. Now, I was kind of kidding, but he was genuine.
Mm-hmm.
It is a general thought from the public, and I used to hold this thought, that politicians are all corrupt. That's not true, because the vast majority of politicians are not smart enough to be corrupt.
Mm-hmm.
The vast majority of politicians don't come at it with the mental skill set to pull anything off, let alone corruption. Now, you do have your corrupt guys, and not on this podcast, but I could tell you, I know a handful of them, and I think they're dirty, and I could show you that they're dirty. But then you've got other ones that are great. I think about Jeff Winnegar. Jeff Winnegar is a guy that I served with for many years. He's in the legislature right now. He's running for the mayor of Chandler. Heart of service, heart of gold. He is such a great guy. Integrity to his core. I mean, I trust him. And I can't say that about a lot of people that I served with. I trust him. J.D. Mesnard is a guy that I served with. Completely trust him. And these guys are just, they do it for the right reasons. They've got a sense of duty.
Mm-hmm.
And it's wonderful. And I think that's what I've watched that, and I consider those guys to be exemplary leaders.
Mm-hmm.
So I've gotten the privilege to kind of watch how you interact in a room and with different people, and even myself. And you've got a gift. It's pretty powerful, and you have this ability to make everybody in the room feel special, and you make a point to do that. And I think that's so unique in today's world. And what was that something you learned along the way, or is that something that you were taught?
I appreciate you saying that. That's kind of you, because I do try, and it's not a move. It's not a strategy. I like people.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, my family, my dad and my wife will tease me often because I have such a bad poker face. If I like you, you know it. And if I don't like you, you know it. And it's like, it just really comes out. And sometimes I'll turn into Papa Bear, and I don't like to show that side as much, but it's always like right behind the surface.
Mm-hmm.
And my emotions are on my sleeve. I come from an Italian family. I'm sure that has a lot to do with it, but I like people a lot. I just love the guys that I work with and care about them, and like to know about their families, like to know about, heartache that they're going through. I like to know the wins. I like to know the losses. It's a genuine thing. A leader that I admire greatly said, it's very easy to remember somebody's name when you love them. And I think about that a lot.
Now, we were talking there about your ability to control a room and to really connect with everybody in it, and how admirable I think that is. I mean, it's a very unique quality, and just the genuineness that comes across in it. Um, there's a study they did recently, and it was focused on trying to look at why people are well liked. And so they looked at a group of people that were well liked, and what they found was the most liked people also like the most people.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that's so fascinating and really eye-opening to just the approach and mindset and connecting with people.
I like that. I totally buy into what you just said. I think it's reciprocal, and sometimes people talk about it like it's a strategy or a play, and it's never like that for me. And I think that if it was, everyone would know it, especially in this age of social media and artificial intelligence. There's something to be said for the premium of authenticity. And, even if it's at a deep level, you can tell. And authentic is everything, and genuine relationships. I feel like a relationship of trust is a currency stronger than uh, anything else that exists. And if two people have a high level of trust, their ability to be successful together is exponentially greater because of that trust. Now,
So
I have to
growing
say
up,
something about you did say something about controlling a room.
uh-huh.
I have a secret advantage on that. I'm in
What
my
is it?
fifth year
What's
of
the secret?
I'm in my fifth year of teaching high school.
Oh, yeah, that'll do it.
So I teach it. I'm in my fifth year of teaching at I teach at Perry High School in Chandler. And you spend your I teach two classes every morning. As soon as I got out of office, there's something in my DNA that teaching high school and being in government are very, very similar to each other. And so that hierarchy, that Maslow's hierarchy of needs, is met the same way teaching high school as it was being in government. And so spending my mornings with 14-year-olds that are on their phones and don't listen. If you see me in our business meetings, like getting everyone's attention or corralling people, you just be like, Perry High School, and I'll be like, exactly, exactly. That's where that skill set comes from, man.
Huh, that's fascinating. Just the fact that you went from your political career to teaching high school. I love that. But for me, that also demonstrates your true passion for just service and helping share and educate and help where you can. And I think that's cool. As far as growing up, what prepared you for your political career, for the things you do, the way you connect with people, the way you interact? Like, where did you have people you would have considered mentors, great coaches? What did that look like?
Not really. I think there's two factors. The first factor is because with my family, we talk about this a little bit. How did any of us end up the way that we did? I moved a lot. And so I moved high schools quite a bit. Um, had to make new friends quite a bit. And that can make or break you. And for me, that helped me to gain a skill set to make new friends and get to know people and become adjusted in a new school quickly at a young age. And I think high school is such a raw political model where you have hierarchy, you have leaders that stick out, you have cliques, you have irrational behavior. Well, that irrational behavior in high school is almost an exact mirror of what goes on in the halls of Congress and the state legislature. right? That level of immaturity in high school is how a lot of elected officials operate. Scary as it is, it's true. And so that high school experience really, when people say, I can't wait to get out of high school, this isn't how the real world is. I'm like, oh, actually, it's exactly how government is. But I think the second thing is I had a handful of people believe in me. I had a church leader in the Philippines believe in me, and I had a woman growing up named Kathy Pickett. And at a young age, she said, Tom, you need to run for office someday. I'm like, you really think so? She says, oh, yes, let me tell you why. And she really made the case for it. And having her just believe in me helped me to believe that I actually could do it.
So powerful to have those people in our life. And to your point in your story there, sometimes it only takes one or two to get that message to kids that they may or may not hear otherwise to really change the direction. And so I think that's important. It's super
100%
powerful.
agreed.
So tell us from the political side after that. You've gotten into some networking stuff. You have just an incredible social network, a business network. How does your leadership style help you do that?
I'd say you talked about my love for people, and that I agree with that. The other thing too is that I'm pretty good at staying connected with people. And having a large network, it's harder and harder to do, but there's some tricks to it of keeping things fresh. I feel like a relationship has a shelf life, and sometimes what we do is we have this associate or this friend, and maybe they're in our contacts, and we'll go years without reaching out to them until we need something. And then we reach out to them, and that might be a stale relationship. That might be it. Too much time has passed, and you only call me when you need something, right? I mean, it's sort of that type of an environment. And to stay connected with people and to be of value to them over a regular, occurrence is, I think there's an art to that, and that's natural for me. It's very natural. I can't explain that part. I don't know where I learned that, but just to stay connected and comes with my love of people, but I will oftentimes, and I'm sure you and I have had these texts where there's really no topic to be discussed. It's just like, hey, what are you doing? You know, that sort of thing. And they seem so simple, but they're tremendously valuable. And sometimes you're like, hey, how are you doing? And the person is just like, not great. And that's what's interesting. That's all of a sudden where it becomes really human, and you've got to be a good human and have empathy and be a good listener and connect and so you do that on the scale of a couple thousand people, and it keeps you busy. I don't know what it's like to be bored. I don't know what it's like to be bored. I don't know that feeling.
I hear the term servant leadership all the time, and it's kind of a popular buzzword nowadays. And I can honestly say, from my perspective, watching the way you operate really has been a good example for me of what that really means. Because to your point, like you're sending those texts, you're doing those check-ins, you're trying to figure out how you can bring value to somebody, even if it's not directly. It's a, hey, I know somebody, or do you need me to make an introduction? Can I connect you with so and so? And I think sometimes people get stuck on that they have to be the value and have something valuable, and completely miss that sometimes the most valuable thing is being that person that's just supportive and helpful and wants to see others win.
100%. So Leaderboard is the name of my organization. One of our leaders in Leaderboard, his company just sold. It's going to be the largest technology transaction in the history of Arizona, Paradox AI. And he did very, very well. Huge win. And I am over the moon excited for him. Right? It is sometimes people have a hard time with other people's success. Sometimes there's jealousy, sometimes there's comparison, and I just don't look at the world that way. I don't believe in scarcity. I believe scarcity is that's a concept that we have created in order to control people. And I think abundance is a higher truth. I think abundance is a better way to live. And when somebody is successful, I have pure joy. Like I feel like I want to grab my pom poms. I would be a terrible cheerleader. You know, I got pom poms and I just want to shake pom poms and
Is there a chance we
and
could see that?
yeah, I would be terrible. I would be terrible. Yeah, that would be. There's some things in the skill set, man. I can play music, but I don't think I can be a cheerleader. But yeah, that's that. I'm so happy for him. I'm so happy when I've watched successes you guys have had, and just it brings me a lot of joy.
Yeah, it's funny because I try to think that way, and I'm gonna have to say I'm 100% right there all the time. But I had an interesting interaction at the gym the other day with a kid that he was probably closer to my little brother's age, and um, just kind of worked with him for a little while in the past, and he kind of got off. And I knew he had some relationship issues and just kind of struggles in life. And I was talking to him at the gym, and he's kind of telling me how he started this car washing business and doing some other things. And I just told him, like, dude, that's amazing. Like, you got this. Like, keep going. And just his reaction was like, man, nobody. He didn't say these aren't his words, but it was almost like nobody tells me that stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was just cool. Like, and yeah, we need
Isn't
we
it
need more support positivity in the world.
Isn't it interesting too that you were talking about how it doesn't take a lot of people to
Yeah,
like you if just one or two people give you encouragement, it's like a plant that just needs a tiny bit of sunlight and a tiny bit of water to flourish. It's like
yeah,
that for the people who really have the hustle in them. Just a tiny somebody saying, "Go get it." That's awesome that you're doing it. That could be like, oh man, it's almost like when you learn this ability to take everything and turn it into fuel. Somebody doesn't believe in you, you're like, I'm going to show him. Somebody believes in you
yeah,
just a tiny, tiny bit, and you can amplify that and turn it into this great fuel and be like, that's what I needed. There it is. There's my banner that I'm going to fly. And for Kathy, I don't even know if she realized what she was doing at the time, but she really inspired. I think I was 21, 22 years old when she said that to me.
mhm,
And I can remember it like she was gardening while she did it. I can remember it like it was yesterday. It's like imprinted in my mind. Like it's this vibrant moment. And it's a good lesson for all of us because I really do think it's wise for many, many reasons for the older guys, and that's us now, by the way,
mhm.
to
Yeah,
whether we like it or not, to
yeah,
be encouraging and offer mentorship. And
mhm,
it's wise for a lot of reasons, but it's the right thing to do, and it's also it's just it's brilliant. It's brilliant. I look at these guys that I've had a chance to help mentor. If you notice, sometimes at leaderboard we'll have guys who are much younger, and we have them come along and they learn, and they're getting things going at a young age. And some of these guys have had a lot of success, and
mhm,
they they are becoming. I watched a guy at the Capitol in the space of 15 years. Get this, he went from being a page to a policy advisor to a lobbyist. Then he got hired by a healthcare company. Then he got his MBA. Then he became the vice president now of a $1 billion company in Arizona.
Wow.
And in 15 years. And so it will be a joyous day when the guys that we mentor exceed us and are doing more than we are, and we have that fun tie with them. And that's as it should be, and it's just overall it's smart. It's just good business.
Yeah. One of my favorite quotes is, "A candle loses nothing from lighting another candle."
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And like, it's just so relevant, powerful in this conversation. Like, we literally lose nothing from encouraging people. What?
Yeah. And
So let me
now
ask you this, right?
I've encouraged a lot of people who don't do anything either.
Yeah,
And so
but
it's
you still
interesting
lost
to
nothing
watch.
from that.
Correct. And it's interesting to watch. Why does one guy have that spark where he's like, I'm going to win no matter what? And other people, they're like, no, things got hard and I'm out. That's interesting to me. It's interesting to me why, one person has that drive and that willingness to persevere, and other people, just they get to a certain part and they're like, that's too much for me, I'm done. It's just fascinating. But
Yeah.
I mean, that's to each their own, and you encourage everyone, and then you kind of watch and see who's gonna continue to drive forward.
Mhm. Well, and we started this conversation with the story on how you got into politics and kind of your, the meetings you were having and the day you spent. But I want to dive into that aha moment of when you realize, like, man, I can do this. I can make a difference. I'm gonna go do it. And specifically, like, what was that moment? Like, how did that happen? What was that
A lot of it,
realization?
is because of the person that I married, and so
Mhm.
she's an unbelievable partner. Among her many great attributes, and she was just a fantastic partner. In running for office, I could not have done it without her. And we had a lot of opposition because, again, you've got what is considered to be the leading class of people, and their children are running for office. Um, they paid their dues, and now it's their turn. And I don't agree with any of that. I don't
Mhm.
subscribe to any of that. I ran for office against all of them, and there were 2 seats, and we ended up coming in first place our first year because we ran the campaign like a business. We were very frugal. We did get raise money. We did work hard. We knocked a lot of doors. Um, and then I'll tell you, what was interesting is that we win, and here I am now sitting on the floor with the box of the red and the green buttons in front of me. And it was very surreal because I had fought so hard to get to that position, but now I had to learn a totally new skill set. Policy and the way that uh, uh, laws come into place, and that the haggling and the whole process, totally different skill set from running for office. And I realized I'm clueless. I'm absolutely clueless. And so I had to educate myself fast and surround myself with smart people. Tell you one thing that I did, which you particularly would like, is I would take an issue, and then I would go to the public and find 5 or 6 experts of that issue, and periodically I would have lunch with them, and I would read to them what was being looked at, and then have them give me their opinions. I would then go to committee, and I would sound brilliant because I had all of this information from these geniuses, right? PhDs, CEOs, uh, uh, experienced attorneys. There, there was there, and now it backfired because there was a whole slew of funeral home bills that came over the period of 2 years. And one way or the other, these things ended up, lobbyists were bringing these things. Well, I brought all of these funeral home directors together and was meeting with them to educate myself. Well, it backfired because I ended up being in charge of the whole thing because I knew so much about it.
So one thing I want to touch on a little bit is kind of your personal leadership. And I'll give some examples that stand out to me, and that's your ability to play an instrument extremely well and the discipline that takes to get to that point. I know you've been on kind of a fitness journey and hammering that. But also just your style and through the politics and the way you communicate and like there's so much of that, and even staying on course in politics and not getting off into the weeds and staying convicted. Can you touch on just kind of your personal leadership philosophy and how you address and manage that?
Sure.
What
I,
grounds
I,
you?
I love the words of Paul in the Bible where he says, seek not thine own wealth, but the wealth of others. And I think about that a lot. I think that that is that's good business, uh, especially if you have ethical partners and if you are focused on the success of the people that are around you, then you can't help but become more successful. You can't help but become valuable and needed. Um, I'll tell you something in terms of leadership. I think this is more of like just a way of life. Is I believe in the possibility of things. I believe that humans have this power to stay focused on something and to keep working at it and create unbelievable change and your destiny is in your hands. I think about a guy that I work with named Chris McCaskill, and Chris McCaskill grew up in the streets of Oakland, homeless, and ended up the CEO of a company called Fat Brain that was sold to Amazon. Or no, they sold to Barnes and Noble, and and then he was the founder of a company called Smug Mug, and tremendously successful, and came from dire circumstances. I think that's interesting. I think it's interesting to track this the trajectory of your life and to have really big goals. I was in terrible shape a couple years ago and just decided it was time, and have really been able to take that laser focus and trying to stay on the planet as long as I can. I've enjoyed the process of educating myself, learning about that. Politics, running for office, what we do with music, and our band been able to put out 2 records the last couple of years, and we go on tour in October, and it's wonderfully rewarding, and it's the same skill set. It's this uh, focus, setting goals, getting the right people around you, um, and really being relentless in what you're trying to accomplish. And business is the same way. And you start to add these things up, and it's an eventful life and a wonderful life. And I think that's available to everyone. To get going, to stop, uh, you know, get up off the couch and stay moving and taking little steps. There's a wonderful book by BJ Fogg from Stanford called Tiny Habits. It was the inspiration for the book Atomic Habits. Atomic Habits is only part of the science. So Atomic Habits is like Habits 101, and Tiny Habits is the next step. And the science behind how Instagram was created as a company, because that was created in BJ Fogg's classroom at Stanford, is at the very heart of all of our success. If we will start small and just continue to progress and never give up, never relent, then our goals start to become realities. And it's what you can accomplish in a couple of years is amazing, but it all starts with these really small steps. And so I don't know if that's helpful to any of your listeners, but I think whatever it is that you desire in life, get after it, start small, and don't ever give up.
Yeah,
What I
I think
love
that
go ahead.
fits right into one of our core beliefs in this podcast is that everyone is a leader. And it's simply acknowledging and deciding and stepping into that makes a difference.
Tate,
And
let me
what I love about that is
I want to second that. When you say everyone's a leader, one of the things that high school kids misunderstand that I get to help them to learn is they think you're a leader if you're in charge. Let me tell you something. I spent time with U.S. senators that were some of the weakest people I've ever met. I spent time with school board presidents and town council members that are some of the most powerful people I've ever met. You do not have to be in a leadership position to be a leader. You have to have convictions. You have to have the trust of the people around you. You have to be consistent. And I couldn't agree more. Everyone can be a leader, and everyone should be a leader. But it's just not. That's not the way we're designed. But I think there's a lot of people that could be stepping up that aren't, and the world would be a better place if they did.
Yeah, what I love about all this is like, who wants to follow someone that has small dreams, small goals, and it's like, if you want to be a better leader, start there. Start with, hey, what are the goals I have for myself? What are the beliefs I have for myself? What are the things I want? And think a little bit bigger. And yeah, just loved hearing you talk through that, Tom. Just it's like, yeah, if we want to lead others, we got to start by having some big dreams for ourselves and not being afraid to go after those. Whether it's our fitness, whether it's our health, whether it's our business, whether it's our relationships, and anyone can do that. Anyone can dream a little bigger, or think a little bigger, or think outside the box. Like it really is a choice.
Oh, you crushed it, Drew. You're 100%. Nobody shoots for the middle. Nobody gets fired up about mediocrity. I love this. Who's this guy? The 10X guy. I love it. I love his whole his whole approach to if you want to 10X, let's put together a plan to 100X it. And that every person that has any goal, I think they ought to sit down and say, what would this look like if it was 10X? What would it look like if it was 100X? It's not getting close to right if it's not scary. So it should be a little scary. And now when it starts to get scary, you're like, okay, now we got something. You should be dreaming at night about the stuff you're doing during the day. You should be pinching yourself saying, I cannot believe I'm living my dreams. And until an individual starts down that path, they're never really going to be as fulfilled as they could be. Now, it doesn't have to be financial. And that's the thing too, is that people have different sets of measurement for what their happiness is and what success is to them. But there isn't any dream in this world that couldn't be bigger. There isn't anything that couldn't be expanded on. And why I love what you said, Drew, is because when you start to communicate that to people, some people are going to doubt you and be critical of you. Okay, we'll move them aside. And others, like a gravitational pull, are going to be attracted to you and they're going to follow you. And you start to have success and they'll start thinking, they may never say it, but they'll think it. If Drew could do it, then maybe I could do it. And that's leadership.
Yeah, I love the fact that you use the term like needs to be scary. Because the idea of when we're comfortable, we're not growing or learning anything. It's only in those moments that we're uncomfortable where we truly grow and learn. And yeah, 100%. One of our favorite questions that we like to end on is how do you want to be remembered, Tom?
Oh boy, that's a good one. Well, for starters, I'd like it to be in a very, very long time. So I would like that to not be an issue for a very long time. Since if we're doing wish list, there you go. There's my wish.
Yeah.
But you know, I'd like to be remembered if people felt that I was able to encourage their success. I think that's great. And I wish for my kids and my friends and my associates to all be do far more than I ever did, and whatever that is, and then maybe if they felt like they built on the foundations of what I did, then that would be awesome.
Oh, cool. Well, again, thank you so much for having this conversation. If somebody wanted to reach out to you, get in contact with Tom, how do they do that?
Tell them to go through Tate.
Okay.
Awesome.
Well, we can do that.
Thanks,
Again,
Tom.
thank you,
Appreciate your
Tom.
time today.
Yeah, loved it.
Likewise. Thank you guys. Love your podcast.
Thanks for joining us on the Everyday Leader podcast. If you're ready to take your leadership journey even further, subscribe to our weekly newsletter for more insights and practical tips. And don't forget to connect with us on Instagram to stay a part of our growing community. Just follow the links in the show notes. If this episode impacted you, please help us spread the word and share the link with a friend from wherever you're listening.